effective path.
Right. So there's got to be a response. Hamas did this. The people who did it obviously need to be punished.
Yes.
Killed.
Yes.
So what do you think a wiser course for the United States and for Israel would be at this point?
So I'm running for U.S. president. My job is to look at this through the prism of U.S. interests. But if we're talking to Israel, one of the things we need is, what is your actual objective? Here's one sensible version that the U.S. could fully support. Israel's going to define its objective, and it's up to the U.S. to say, here's what we can support and here's what we can't. But here's one version of it that if I were U.S. president, I would support all the way through, and I happen to think it's among the best answers for Israel itself. Think about a world in which Israel has a clearly defined objective, say the top 100 in Hamas. Okay, we want their heads on stakes, line that southern border of Israel and Gaza. With those heads, as you build a new border defense, there's your deterrence. Top 100 people, whatever it is, a clearly defined objective, achieve the actual retribution and justice that needs to be exacted in this situation.
So kill the people who did it.
Kill the people who did it, absolutely. And is that the top 100? But who are the people in Hamas? That's an achievable objective. Go in and get that done. And I think the U.S. should help from an intelligence perspective with this. I think the U.S. can be helpful with what we might call the diplomatic Iron Dome. Let Israel do this to fully defend itself without the UN or anybody else in the rest of the world getting in the way. Get U.S. allies, intelligence sharing, the kinds of things that don't get the U.S. involved militarily. Israel's capable of doing this. The Mossad is capable of doing this. And think about Munich Olympics 2.0, the version of this. This is an achievable goal. It is proper, it is just, it is morally justified. And anybody from the left in this country or Europe or anywhere who rejects that, no. This is Israel defending itself as it has the right to do.
And punishing the people
who actually did it.
Right.
That's exactly right.
That seems like a pretty obvious solution.
I think
and it seems within the capabilities of the state of Israel, and it seems like we could help with that.
And it's an achievable win, right? And I would sort of even think about now one step further. Against the backdrop of achieving that, I don't think it's crazy, Tucker, for Israel to think about some unconventional approaches here. I mean, I think Israel would...
Wait, can I ask you to pause real quick? Has anyone suggested that? That seems like such an obvious solution.
Not that I've heard, Tucker.
Why?
I think that there's a culture of fear right now in the United States. I'm not speaking for Israel, I'm speaking for the culture here in the U.S., where, yes, all of us, I'm sure you and I included, share an emotionally visceral reaction to what happened with Israel being that wrong. But I think that emotional, visceral reaction has everybody looking to each other to talk about the periphery of the issue, right? Everybody's so eager to talk about whether you're going to condemn the, college student groups that are making silly statements over here or the $100 million of humanitarian aid over there. I see Republicans rushing to, analyze the mosquitoes on the elephant's tail without talking about the actual elephant in the room.
But this just seems like
what we should do.
If we believe someone committed murder, we find that person and we punish him.
That's right.
So that would seem like the most obvious solution.
Well, I think that there are some in the U.S. that are so bloodthirsty and have been rooting for outcomes that have really, from their standpoint, nothing to do with this conflict, that might want to use this conflict as an excuse to do what they otherwise might have wanted to do anyway, which is reopen broad-scale regional war in the Middle East, which we haven't had since Iraq and Afghanistan came to a close. These are cynical forces that exist in some wings of the U.S. But I can't speak for why others aren't really clear-headedly asking, what exactly is our plan of action? What advances U.S. interests? What exactly should we tell Israel we will and won't support? And how could that possibly positively influence Israel to make the right decisions here? But I think there's, first principle, go after the people who are responsible for this in an achievable goal in a way, and I would say, metaphorically or literally, put their heads on stakes, make sure that we actually have a clear deterrence, that something like this never happens again. And then I think there are ways that Israel could really turn the tables here.
So you're not arguing on behalf of Hamas?
Of course. I mean, the things that people will say on the internet appall me, but Hamas is a terrorist group and deserves to be held accountable for the dastardly acts. I mean, this was barbaric. It was medieval. And I think a direct response to exact justice from Hamas is 100% morally justified. And as U.S. president, if I were in that office, I would provide every bit of diplomatic air cover to Israel to do what it needs to do, because I'm also looking after the U.S. interest here. I don't want the U.S. military involved in some tripwire of a war in the Middle East that we sleepwalk ourselves into, which isn't good for the U.S., but isn't even likely good for Israel. Now, I think that there are some broader regional issues that we need to deal with, too. I mean, one of the lurking issues here